So today I want to talk about narcissistic abuse. This is such a fascinating subject to me as a survivor of narcissistic abuse. I had no clue I was even being abused. And I think that's why this subject is so fascinating to me, because so many of us are addicted to toxic already that drama in a relationship is nothing. Somebody being overly dramatic and throwing tantrums or being jealous and controlling or, constantly coming back to you in our minds. That's fascinating. It makes the relationship interesting and passionate. And that's the thing about being with a narcissist. It's extremely passionate most times. So you get caught up in that and you don't even realize the truth of what's happening to you. There are so many levels to narcissistic abuse, and I will break down a few of them today. I am not a doctor or clinical psychiatrist or whatever. I am simply a survivor that wanted to understand what I had been through so that I could finally heal in this journey. Because after you break up with a narcissist, the torture, the trauma, the overwhelming suffering you endure is even worse than the relationship itself. And the relationship itself is a lot. So I had to understand what was happening to me. 1 and 1 was not equaling 2. I did not get why I even cared about this sadistic piece of shit. Let's just be real. How dare you even have the audacity to ask for other chances when I divorced you and left an entire state to get away from you and the shit you put me through? And why, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out, was I even considering it? Something wasn't right. At one point in my life, I broke up with a person and just moved on. You just move on. What made this different? I get it. I was married for 10 years. I get divorce is different than breaking up. However, after everything I had been through with him, why was I still protecting him and not telling my whole story? But just enough so people understand that there's a reason I left, but not telling the whole story. Because one thing that the victims of narcissistic abusers tend to do is we internalize the drama. We create this scenario in our heads and minds that we may have been the reason this or that happened, because we didn't understand that one level of narcissistic abuse is called reactive abuse. So during the grooming process, a narcissist is taking the time to understand you inside and out, everything from your external to your internal, so that they can know how to use that stuff against you later, period. They know exactly how to trigger you. They know exactly what to say to get a reaction out of you. And depending on what reaction they want, they know exactly which button to push. And when they do, they get the result they want so that later on they can say, but you did this. And because you end up missing them and wanting them back in that half-ass apology that they may offer if you're lucky, you end up letting the gaslight prevail every time. But we don't realize that there was an entire agenda against us the entire time. A clock ticking on exactly the when and where and how he was going to proceed in fucking us up. It takes time for you to realize that you are not the problem. It takes time for you to get out of your head because of the way they leave you. This abrupt abandonment. And a lot of times you find out some way you have been betrayed. They usually leave you left with nothing. They don't leave an explanation. They ghost you so you don't even get to see them to be able to confront the situation. Even if you do get a chance to confront it, you're usually treated like you're the problem. It's a whole cycle. So let's break down just a couple of levels of abuse in narcissistic relationships. So there's a mental, there's an emotional, there is physical, and there is sexual. You're going to endure all 4 levels of abuse eventually in these relationships. If you stay any amount of time, if you don't get out after those first signs, because we usually get like 2 or 3, within a week, because you can only do it for like a week or 2, especially you're constantly around them a couple days. Pay attention, the signs are there. If you get ghosts in time, you don't have to worry about this. You stay for any amount of time, you're gonna go through these 4 levels. The mental abuse. Narcissists are highly mentally manipulative. And if you're spiritual, they are empathic in their abilities. So you will connect with them easily. It'll feel like a soulmate connection. And it'll be passionate, and they'll be your best friend. And because they get in your head, they eventually figure out how to push everybody else away. So you end up just with them as the center of your world. And so they use a lot of tactics like gaslighting, reactive abuse, as I mentioned before. They create these insecurities and love to trigger you, but their entire agenda is getting in your head. They love to control. So what's the best way to control any person at any time, in any place? Throughout history, masses were controlled by infecting the mind first. They infect your mind. They get in there, and they, just like a freaking cancer, they grow and eventually take over. And if you don't cut that shit out soon, it's gonna kill you. Just saying. And then there's also this level of abuse where they put you in these scenarios that, honestly, if anybody else was to find out, it would humiliate you. So it's almost like, I'm gonna keep your secret to keep from humiliating myself. So they often don't get exposed for their behavior, because whatever they do it in a way that could humiliate you too if it ever got out, because they want the world to believe they're great people. That is another part of the abuse. Because of their mental manipulation, they sell you a persona, a dream. They sell you a dream, and you believe it wholeheartedly. It's almost like if you fell into a cult and you just start praising whoever this leader is, you blindly follow them and believe them. And no matter how much they get caught in a lie or prove, to be liars, you still want to believe them because of this persona they sell you in the beginning. That initial love bombing phase is purposely there to create this persona, this perception of them they want you to believe, so that you hold on to it. And then later on, when they act a donkey, you look at that like that is an exception. That is not the norm. That is not who he really is, because I know him. We shared secrets and a bond, and that is my best friend, and I know him better than anybody. It's us against the world. And I realize, no, it's you against his ass. He is not your lover. He is your nemesis. He might secretly hate you, just being honest with you. Narcissists hate most people. Yeah, so you get sold this dream. And that in itself, that level of mental abuse, when you do finally find out who the person is that you've been dealing with, that level of betrayal, it's heart-wrenching because you don't want to believe it. Most would just choose to stay in denial than believe that that's who the hell I've been lying next to all this time. So then you have emotional abuse. Your mental pretty much guides your emotions. With them triggering you, they use that tactic of reactive abuse to every bit of their advantage. They love drama, they love chaos, and they love to see you hurt. They love to see you mad or angry. And honestly, they don't care whether it's love or hate. Any emotions thrown at them from you lets them know that you give a shit, and they love it. All attention, bad, good, all in between, all attention, any good, any attention. It's all good for them. They just like the attention, and they like to be the center of it. Emotionally manipulating you in those aspects is fun for them. It's a game, and they enjoy it. They enjoy pulling on your insecurities because, again, they use that initial phase of getting to know you to literally build a dossier against you so they can use later. They can pull it out anytime they want to. They eventually control the whole switchboard to your emotions. They will determine if you're happy today. They will determine if you feel loved today. They will determine if you're going to be pissed off. They will determine if they want to make sure that you're hurting. It's all fun for them. Because of the love cycle you go through in a narcissistic relationship, it's a whirlwind. It's a roller coaster. You stay on this emotional roller coaster, and it's exhausting. And the problem is, no matter how exhausting it is, for some reason it's hard to get off the ride. So that's why most people end up just broken and beaten down and just giving up and just pretty much shells of themselves, just existing just to make sure this relationship works. I don't even try no more. That's always been their goal anyway, because they want to hold on to you. If they fight hard for you to keep you around, it's because you're a large supply for them. Narcissistic supply is how they thrive, and that's a whole nother conversation. I'll make sure that I leave the link so that you can go back and look at that video that talks about inside the mind of a narcissist. And I have several videos already up, so please go look at them. Look at the videos, because I already shared a lot of information, but I'm still sharing as I learn. They do love to see you suffer. Emotional neglect, oh my God, that's their favorite. And that's their way of punishing you. So especially if they want to do something wrong or know they've done something wrong and they need time away from you, they'll just completely neglect you emotionally. They will ghost you, sometimes totally disappear so that they don't even have to deal with it. They actually hate emotions. If you cry and they know they did something to make you cry, it pisses them off that you're crying. They would prefer to act like they don't even hear it or care, because you're trying to make them feel guilty. And since emotional manipulation is their favorite tactic, they kind of feel like you're doing the same thing. So please stop crying. I get it. I did something bad, but girl, please. Real shit. I mean, I could be laying right next to him crying forever. He wouldn't give a shit. My tears don't mean nothing. Or, he knows he hurt me. He knows he owes me an explanation. I just wouldn't hear from him for a few days until he thinks I got over it, because that's another tactic I like to use. Really weird how they think. You really need to understand how their mind works in order to get what they did to you. So on to the next one. There is the physical abuse. So most narcissists are not just physically abusive. So that is why you normally don't even think of what your relationship could be considered abusive. Because it's not like he's just coming in the house every day wailing on you because his food wasn't hot on the table. It doesn't never look anything like that. You could not have convinced me I was being abused, because I'm a fighter. But let's go back to that reactive abuse. You do things to get a reaction out of me so that it would excuse whatever future behavior or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I never stopped to think about the fact that why are me and my husband, the man that supposedly loves me, battling like two niggas in the street? What is happening? Why are we at war like gang members? Like, this just did not make sense when it was happening. But I didn't stop to think about it as I'm being abused. But at the end of it, I have broken practically every finger and toe. I've been left with contusions. I can't even count the number. My lip literally was detached from my gums. I had 22 stitches in my arm, at the end of these battles. You know what I'm saying? So I was physically abused. And most of these events occurred whenever he received what is called narcissistic injury. Anytime a narcissist has a blow to the ego, it's not just you hurt their feelings. No, they literally internalize any type of criticism. Anytime you're not telling them that they're the greatest, anytime you expose them, these things create an explosion. I'm talking about Hiroshima type nonsense reactions from them. They do not like their ego bruised. Don't humiliate them. Don't do anything to call them out. It's called narcissistic injury for a reason. They feel like you literally just shot them in the guts. How dare you? Now you must pay. And seriously, you gotta pay. It's a problem. That's usually how the physical abuse will look in a narcissistic relationship. He's not just wailing on you, but through the reactive abuse, you end up in situations where at the end of that battle between this man or woman that you're supposedly in love with, that is sitting there going blow for blow with you, it's a physical abuse that they wanted. They wanted a reason to be able to put their hands on you. So they created a situation. Last but not least, there is the sexual abuse. How can you be sexually abused in your marriage, right? So this is what that looks like. Remind you about that story I said earlier where I could be crying right next to him. He wouldn't give a shit. And I would cry myself to sleep, only to wake up to him in between my legs and ready to have sex. And if I had the audacity to not be ready and willing, eagerly, don't just lay there, you better be ready to put on a show, I was going to get that narcissistic injury reaction. And I was going to get emotionally neglected, or I may even get ghosted because now he has a reason to leave the house. Now I won't see him for the night. And all he did was go to his brother's house or some shit. You know how that go. That's one level of sexual abuse. Those that truly, when I say narcissist, I'm referring to those that are technically suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. Because in all actuality, we all can have narcissistic tendencies. I had to admit that some of what I went through might have been karma. Now, I never suffered from the disorder because I have empathy. I could come back. I can recognize my, actions and decide to adjust them and say, this isn't right. I can apologize. Just stop. Anyway, at some point, I had way too many narcissistic tendencies for it to be okay. I didn't understand that about myself until I started going through my own journey of healing from the abuse. So I was the narcissist that fell into narcissistic abuse. So I almost understand the mindset, but I didn't get to the level of brokenness, to the disorder to which my ex-husband is at. True narcissists, they're sex addicts. Most of them have some very sick, twisted, and sadistic ways about them. They're dangerous with their sexual habits. They have multiple partners. They do not protect anybody's sexual health. That is abuse. The constant cheating, that is a sexual abuse because you're not having the chance to make an informed decision in your choice to how you are dealing with this person sexually. What you want to do with your body. Because you sleeping with him is sleeping with everybody he's sleeping with. And anybody they're sleeping with. And whoever they're, you get it. Let's not act like we're not living in a world that STDs are running rapid. Because everybody wants to fuck him, and her. I can't. You know what I mean? I'm not 20 no more. And I actually want to be here for a minute. And I like my stuff, I think it's pretty good. I'm gonna keep it. That's abuse when you take somebody's choice away. Another level of sexual abuse is when you are a sexual partner to a true narcissist, they feel entitled to sex. So if you're not willing to give it, they'll take it. And they don't give a shit if you like it or not. They're gonna take it because they want it, and it's gonna be a problem if you're not gonna give it to them. All of these are abuse. Again, but none of these do you recognize as abuse when they're happening. This is why when you break up with a narcissist, you don't understand why it's so hard or why it's so devastating, because you didn't realize that you were being abused and you're literally going through post-traumatic stress syndrome right now. Like, you need counseling from what you just suffered. It goes deep. So let's discuss the abusive love cycle I mentioned earlier. That is a major part of the abuse because it's a never-ending merry-go-round that keeps you on a roller coaster of emotions. And for whatever reason, we cannot leave this park. We cannot leave this park. It's just the worst ride to history. We can't get off. Okay. So, you have a grooming phase. In the grooming phase, this is the period where they're getting to know you. They are implanting and imprinting themselves in you. They become your best friend. They become the answer to everything. They usually have something they can offer you that is missing in your life. They usually have stories that y'all relate to, so you connect through that. Of course, all of us have an emptiness within us that even allows us to stay in these situations, which is always a green light for them. They just come in with an S on their chest, and all of a sudden you feel like you have that person that understands. That person that you all have a connection that's unexplainable, undeniable, and unbreakable. That's how they get you during that grooming phase. But the whole time, they're building a dossier against you. They're learning every single thing about you that they could use against you in the future. Your insecurities, your past, your relationships, anything they could use. They are building that case against you because down the road, they have plans. Then there's that love bombing. And the love bombing phase is typically between that and what happens during the grooming. We get caught up in this perception of who this person is, and it stays imprinted in our heads, and it's what we always go back to, and it's kind of what fucks us up the most. During the love bombing, they're perfect. They are everything you need them to be, and they're overwhelmingly attentive and romantic, and you get all kinds of gifts, and it's so passionate, and it's like something out of a movie scene, and he or she will make you feel like you are the only thing in the universe, the only one that matters, and they only want you. It's overwhelming, it's breathtaking, it's beautiful. It's lies. All lies. Stay tuned, okay? So now you're getting praise, you're getting all this attention, phone calls and texts and love messages and shout outs and all this stuff, dates and gifts and wines and dines, and yeah, everything is, they go all out of their way. So now let's get to our next phase, the devaluing. When I say this happens so subtle, because it just seems like they might nitpick about that or this, but over time, it seems like everything you do is an issue. I don't like what you're wearing, or you gain too much weight, or you don't clean up, and you don't do this, and why you talk like that. It just seems like they start nitpicking. Everything is a problem. And it just gets more and more. And you don't realize, and the next thing you know, it's like every conversation becomes a problem or an argument. You're constantly defending yourself, and you're trying to figure out, what did I do? It's never really a good excuse for their attitude, because they will get an attitude with you all of a sudden and treating you different, like you're a problem. And you don't know what you did. You have no clue which way did he go, George? Where did shit go left? You're confused. And you're not understanding that's because they're going through this phase of devaluing you. Now, this has a couple of results for them. One, they're very insecure people. So hurt people, and they feel empowered through making you feel less than, they want to break you down. Most narcissists do hate their partners. They are jealous of them. They hate the goodness in you. They hate anything about you that they don't possess within themselves, and they want to bring you down a peg, knock you off your pedestal. Now, remind you, they went through that other level, going out of their way to build you up on this pedestal for the sole purpose of knocking you back down, just a little peg at a time. And each time it chips away at you because it builds insecurities within you. Now you start seeing that you are moving a little different. You're doing this differently, or you're talking differently. It's almost like you start walking on eggshells so that you avoid waking the bear, even though you're not even sure how you got there, or you may not even notice that it's happening. And that is the craziest part about narcissistic abuse. You literally are clueless because it doesn't happen all in one day. It's a process, and they're so patient in their process. Next thing you know, now you went from meeting your best friend in the world, your soulmate, to this overwhelming, romantic, passionate relationship that's flourished from it. And now everything you do is a problem and you're trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong and how do I hold on to it. Which brings us to our final phase, the ghosting and discarding. This is their ultimate goal. They can't wait to discard you. That is like exciting for them, because that is all, they're always planning ahead for the discard. This is why they keep backup plans. So that's why you always find them cheating, because they always got to have something to fall back on. And by the time they discard you, they usually have already depleted you of everything they could get up out of you and found a new supply. But ghosting is when they plan on coming back most times. So when they ghost you, they just don't give an explanation. Usually they done something, got exposed for something, know they hurt you, but they don't want to talk about it. Or they had a plan to get ghosted because they got something else they have planned. So they gotta separate themselves from you. So they'll just ghost you, You won't know why. There'll be no rhyme or reason. And they do it with the sole purpose of coming back eventually with the love bombing. And then it's a constant cycle. That is part of what messes us up so bad in narcissistic abusive relationships. Because we don't realize we're being abused. And by the time we realize it, you've gone through it for so long. And this roller coaster that they had you on at the same time you were on the merry-go-round, you are screwed emotionally and mentally. And drained, probably physically. You'll find you don't even want to get out the bed or off the couch. It's crazy. I think it is imperative that we take heed to the fact that when you break up with a narcissist, you're not just leaving behind a relationship. You are mutually agreeing to go your separate ways. You're genuinely left stuck in a place of nothing. They drain you for everything. Emotionally, physically, whether it's monetarily, they take everything from you. Generally, we'll have some sort of betrayal at the end of that too, where they do something where you find out, they lied and cheated and betrayed you in some way, shape, or form. They don't give you an explanation. You don't get an apology. You usually get treated like crap. So you're left wondering why. You want to confront them. You're angry. You're in disbelief that it's even happening. Because like I've said before, you will wake up that morning in the perfect relationship, and by noon, Armageddon. That is the relationship of a narcissist. And they do all that to you knowing they're going to come back. Knowing when they come back, they have no intentions on doing right. They're just going to put you through this cycle again. But you being the one in love and genuinely hoping that they will change and care about you enough to do better, keep giving them chance after chance to do it. It'll never happen. If you're with a true narcissist, they're not going to change. They can't change. It's not something they can do on their own. And because narcissists do not believe they have a problem, they're not going to get help for it. So you're not going to get any other result. They don't even know why they do what they do. They're so broken and empty that all they know how to do is share that. Make you as broken and empty as I am. They're like a plague upon the earth. The only way to eradicate it is through our knowledge, to empower ourselves, not to fall victim. So that is my goal in my journey. I want to share everything I learned so that you don't have to be a victim. Be a survivor. And then share your journey, share your testimony to help the next person. Because the more of us speak up, each one teach one, each one reach one, the more we can get this message out here, and we can heal and transform our own minds so that we don't become victims. It's not enough to sit there and keep blaming them because we keep going back to them. It's not enough to sit there and wish for them to change because you're the one that has to change. These are the things we have to understand. And because we were abused, we might need to get help. They're not willing to get help, but you can. I'm still in therapy. Get you a support system, your friends, your family that genuinely care about you, that you probably pushed away in this relationship with a narcissist because they like to have you all to themselves. And that's part of being in your head. Gonna push everybody away. Connect, get back, reform them bonds. They are going to be the glue that holds you together through this, and you're gonna need support. You cannot do this alone because you have been through abuse. The sooner you accept that, acknowledge it and accept it, you can begin addressing it and adjusting whatever you need to within yourself so that you don't ever be a victim again. I invite you to follow my crazy. Please like, share, and subscribe, and click that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my content.